All right, well, it is 6:30, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Academy of Scholars Parent Information Session on Parenting in a Pandemic. We are going to get started, as usual, with prayer. Mr. Crane, can you start us off with prayer, please? Mr. Crane, you might still be on mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we're going to get started. Can you start us off with the word of prayer, please?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful Friday. We thank you for this community of brothers and sisters in Christ, Lord, that have joined our hearts and minds together. Lord, we ask that you be with us, Lord. We ask that you be with everyone, Lord, not only in the AOS community, Lord, but in the world. Lord, we know that even though a pandemic is upon the land, we know that you are in the midst of us and that you should bring us out, even as you did the children of Israel as they left Egypt. Lord, we thank you that you would be with this meeting, that you would touch our hearts and our minds, Lord, that we would do things that would help us raise up our children and train them up in the way that they should go. We ask that you be with us, Lord, that you would bring us back again at a future appointed time full of joy, peace, and victory. In your son, Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Crane. We want to thank all of our listeners for joining us tonight in this virtual setting. I hope that everyone is staying safe, staying sane, and staying home. I just kind of drove around a little bit today, and today was the day that Georgia lifted some of their restrictions, and I could not believe how many people were just out and about, how many of the stores were filled. I drove by the nail salon, and it was packed. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Aren't we in a pandemic? Like, don't we still have COVID-19 happening? So I just hope that everyone is staying safe and please stay home. I know that you guys can recall, I know here in Georgia, it was Thursday, March 12th, when Governor Kemp had a press conference and he was talking about COVID-19 and the closing of schools. And I don't think that at that time I understood the impact that COVID-19 would have in our lives. I was the forever optimist, and I was like, oh, it'll get better, not realizing that things would actually have to get worse before it could get better. So that was my experience. I'm like, oh, it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better, and it hasn't, right? This pandemic has impacted all of us. As adults, we have the necessary tools that we use to express ourselves, and we're able to cope with our feelings during this time. But our little ones do not. And I think about our scholars all of the time, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not there to give them a hug in the morning. They're not able to see their favorite teachers. They're not able to get hugs from their friends. So I can't imagine how they must be feeling. And that's why we decided that we wanted to provide a platform tonight where our goal is to provide parents with some tools on how to address the emotional needs of their children as they wrestle with all the feelings that they have surrounding this COVID-19 pandemic. We've invited Dr. Wendy Bailey to join us tonight to share her insight and to answer some questions that we may have as parents. Dr. Bailey is a graduate from Spelman College, where she received a Bachelor of Arts in both Spanish and Psychology, and Emory University, where she received a PhD in clinical psychology. She has over 20 years experience as a clinical psychologist. She's the mother of 5, God bless her, and the wife to her husband of 29 years. I'm gonna say God bless you there again too. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Wendy Bailey. Dr. Bailey, thank you so much for being here tonight. So the way we're going to do this is I'll go ahead and let you go through the presentation. And then of course, at the end, I'll ask some questions that we have from some parents, okay?
Okay, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. And I'll go on and proceed to the first slide here. We're going to talk about some best parental practices during this pandemic. And most importantly, you want to be able to take your scholar's perspective. So everyone's stressed out, but I want you to imagine your little ones they're likely to experience what you're experiencing, maybe double. And that might be even conservative because they don't really know what's next, and they might not have an idea what's going on. They just know that a lot of things have changed. They're out of school, which is major, and yeah. So the next slide, please. Have you explained COVID-19 in terms of in terms that your child is able to understand? And I just have a sample here. What is coronavirus? And it's a video by Peekaboo Kids, and they have a number of animations online. But by all means, you just check around and find whatever you find to be appropriate. But there are lots of presentations online for children that are child-friendly and easy for them to understand. Next slide, please. So you want to protect your child from breaking news. I think it's really scary. It's anxiety-provoking for adults. If you listen to the music when the news comes on, and it's just really counterproductive the way that they present things, how they're speaking in a way that's kind of frantic at times. So it's just really scary. So it's hard on adults, the news is, but it's really hard on the kids. Next slide. So precious ears need not hear about a focus on deaths, furloughs, layoffs, despair. All of that is just too anxiety provoking. Next slide. So also remember your important role. And so another thing that their precious ears really shouldn't hear is like heated arguments. I know kids are pretty bright and they know when parents disagree, but it's totally different when you're yelling at each other, and Lord forbid if there's profanity and all of that going on. It's just too much for them. Because you as a couple, you probably know, well, we're not going to break up, but your kids have no idea. So it's just extra anxiety that's unnecessary, especially given the circumstances with COVID-19 and all of the other things they're going through. Next slide. So you want to strive for effective communication. And this is really, there's a couple that's pictured, because if one main stressor with everyone confined to the household, I know in Georgia, everyone's kind of free now, but I hope that you will kind of stay confined within the household just for your own safety. But given that everyone is together, there might be stress and strain between partners, or there's stress and strain between the parent and one parent and a child. There might be a problematic child within the household who may be acting out or coping with their anxiety in a way that's not so cooperative, and they're being difficult. So take this advice according to however you need it. So if you need it concerning a spouse or significant other, then take it that way, or you can use it towards, a child, a problematic child. But read and learn more about effective communication if it's an area of weakness for you. And in order to improve, you want to listen more than usual. You want to listen more than you talk, so that way you kind of understand what what the main issues are. And you should actually care about others' complaints about your behavior. Oftentimes, I know as parents, we focus on the kids, or we focus on our spouse and their problems, but really what we really can alter is our own behavior. So you always want to check on yourself and kind of listen to what the complaints are about you, because that's something you can actually repair immediately. Seek honest feedback about your efforts to improve, just to see if anyone's noticing. And then seek help from a therapist or a spiritual leader if you find that there's an impasse, like it's just too difficult to improve the communication, like the arguing is still going on, or a problematic child still refuses to cooperate and you feel that things are beyond your control. That's when you seek help. And some people, I've been a therapist, for a couple of decades, and so I understand that some people don't believe in therapy, so that's why I say, go to your spiritual leader, because, you're probably connected to your pastor, and many of them have some pastoral training, the counseling training. Next slide. Demonstrate logical thinking and problem solving. So you want to use reasoning skills instead of emotion. So the yelling usually comes as a last resort when you feel that you're not relying on your communication skills as much. But we want to encourage your logical thinking. So practice extraction of emotion. That's kind of, with my clients, I talk about placing your emotions on the shelf, because sometimes with the emotions, people follow the yelling and they're missing the words and the meaning that you're trying to convey. So you kind of lose your message when you're overly emotional. So you want to practice emotion regulation, and that's just coming from a point of view, coming from a place that's calm, and know that you're really seeking a solution, and you don't want to present more problems by being overly emotional. And identify one problem at a time, because if you're looking at too many issues at the same time, you can get lost in that. And one way to stay on task is to create pros and cons lists for each possible solution you come up with for your presented problem. So, for example, if you have a child who refuse to do their schoolwork. So out here where I am, a lot of kids are online for school, and it's not the best learning tool for everyone. Everyone doesn't learn that way. So a lot of parents are overwhelmed with having to become the teacher. And a question that I've had a lot lately is, how do I get them to cooperate? Because they're just breaking down, saying they can't do it, so with the pros and cons list, what you would do is list whatever solutions you come up with. So you'd have a pros and cons list for every solution. The first one might be, allow them 5 minutes to calm down and come back to the computer. And then you just write out, based on that one solution, what are the pros and cons of allowing that to happen. So that's an example of use of the pros and cons list. Next slide, please. Demonstrate unity and cooperation. Remember, again, you are the leadership in the household. You are the role model. So you kind of set the tone for the household and how things are going to go, especially with all the confinement within the home. So you just want to make things as peaceful as possible. So you want to demonstrate that you're striving for unity and cooperation, and rather than a dictatorship or just watching the tone of how you're trying to get things done at home, because everyone's stressed out. But how you go about it, it could be really fun and a time to unite and become even closer as a family, rather than blowing your top when things don't go well, and then no one really wants to work together because everyone's demoralized and the morale within the house has gone down. People don't want to cooperate. So always kind of check yourself as a leadership. Like, if I were in my child's shoes, would I be in, would I want to listen and cooperate? Is any of this fun? Is there anything that I can look forward to? So I'd say be an example of emotional maturity, elevate your moral character. It makes you more attractive and irreplaceable. And again, what I mean by that is, like, you're the leader in the household. This is a very stressful time. And so if you find that you're yelling a lot, you want to really kind of change that and try to make things a little more fun. And these are memories that the kids will always remember. They'll speak fondly of even a rough time in your life, because you're showing that during adversity, you can still remain calm and you can still make things fun and work as a team. Accept honest feedback with dignity and grace. So instead of making the kids pay for being honest, like you fuss too much. The reason I keep reiterating this, because these are some things that I'm hearing from kids. With everyone stuck in the house, there's a lot of fussing going on, lots of irritability, and sometimes the kids feel that things are being taken out on them. So if you kind of listen in a loving way and then make changes, it shows that they're important to you, and And you're exemplifying to them, okay, I can listen to you and you guys listen to me. So I say no pouting or vindictive reactions, like making the kids pay because they gave you some feedback you didn't welcome. Okay, and that's a sign of emotional maturity when you can kind of handle the truth that they're giving to you. Next slide, please. Children need to feel secure. So maintain a consistent schedule. It makes life predictable. Set time for eating, sleeping, bathing, learning. Include routine family fun on the calendar, something that all of you can look forward to. And what I mean by that, even if you're going out to take the dogs for a walk or something like that, but everyone goes because, you know, it's just an outing. But you make it fun. Maybe you're chatting about different things, talking about your childhood or something. You know, consider it a little stroll. So it might be something that you may not routinely do as a group, but every now and then have it on your calendar that you're going to do something. Play card games. A lot of kids don't know how to play old-fashioned board game, or what is it, dominoes, you know, things like that, because everything's just so, there are video games now. So let's see. Make daily expectations with clear deadlines. So everything works smoothly within the household if everyone has their designated chores. So stick with something, stick with a routine, and make sure that everyone follows through with it. And praise and acknowledge the good citizenship you observe, because really it's good citizenship within the household. The same way they have to be good citizens in school, you expect the same thing at home. So you're working as a team. And children sense when you enjoy them, and they sense when they're seen as burdensome to you as well. Keep that in mind. Next slide, please. Children need accountability, so have them list their responsibilities and by what time they must be completed. So they can't say, I didn't hear you, or I didn't know, because you had them repeat it. So there you go. And also their attitude about doing it is important. So I have here, you are always responsible for how you act, no matter how you feel. Remember that. And so if you have an expectation, it's their time to feed the pets or what have you. And if you notice you don't like how they're talking to the pets because it interrupted their program or whatever, their video game, you know, it's important to correct that. So with COVID-19, you're at home more and you're able to kind of observe, okay, this one doesn't like to do work, or they're a little lazy and they have an attitude every time I ask them to do something. It is important to correct them as much as you can. So you praise hard, but also, you know, correcting them so they'll have a better attitude, so they'll know, oh, so my attitude about what I do matters, not that I just do it, but do it with a good attitude. And it does help when you're able to say, okay, so when you need a ride somewhere, I have a good attitude. I don't fuss at you. I don't have a bad attitude. I do it joyfully because I love you, you know. So it's good if you are setting that tone for them, because you can always use it as an example to straighten them out. Next slide, please. Parents and children are likely anxious. So, and that's normal given the seriousness of everything, all the circumstances that we're all experiencing right now. But what decreases anxiety is studying the problem. So you have a better idea of what's going on, and peaceful breathing, that really helps. And one way to kind of practice the peaceful breathing is to blow bubbles. The bigger bubbles you're able to blow, the slower your heart rate is. And that's the key to managing anxiety, is to get that heart rate down. If your heart is not cooperating, you cannot experience a panic attack. Your heart is like the key to a panic attack. It's the key to anxiety, because once that heart starts pumping, your thoughts are rushing, you're sweating, you feel like you're having a heart attack. And all of those are the ingredients to a good panic attack. So you're really interrupting that by just getting that breathing under control. That's the key. So you can practice by blowing bubbles. Even if you have chewing gum, bubble gum. If you blow the large bubbles that pop and it pops all over your face, that means your heart rate is down, because you have to have a sustained, steady and very slow breath in order to blow a large bubble. So that's how you get that heart rate down. And then teamwork decreases anxiety as well. If you know you're not the only person experiencing it, being able to talk as a family during family meetings, just creating a safe space for the kids to be able to chat about their experiencing and how they're experiencing things. Next slide, please. So what do we do with the kids? So you can take the time since you're together to teach your doctrine. I had a child was upset because they said, well, Daddy made fun of me because I didn't know the Lord's Prayer. And I was like, well, what got you so upset? And it's like, well, he never taught me. So he used something against the child, something they didn't know, but he had never taken the time to even teach the child. So how did the child even know that was something important? So now that you have that time, you can kind of teach what you believe in, and teach effective coping, seek help if you really have difficulty coping with the situation. If you feel you're not a good example, you can seek outside help. Notice your children's verbal and nonverbal distress signs. I've seen where one child had been, they had an ER visit because they had been picking their nose so much. If you know that's not a normal habit for your child, and you notice all of a sudden they're picking anything, picking their skin, picking scabs and things like that, that's usually a sign of anxiety, biting the inside of their lip. Usually they're causing some type of damage, and it's unusual. You may notice stuttering, they can't sleep, and they may talk a lot about the same thing or ask the same questions. Those are the things that are really on their mind. So those are some distress signs to look out for. And then create a safe and relaxing space for effective coping. You can teach them how to breathe, get them to a professional if you need to do that. But a lot of the time, the kids are looking to us as the leadership within the house, and that's how they know if something's serious or not. They're looking to us, like what kind of energy are we producing? And then that kind of sets the tone for them. Create joyful memories even during these puzzling times, and I spoke a little bit about that already. Next slide. And now I guess I'll open it up for the questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Bailey. You provided a lot of information that really we can apply just beyond this pandemic. And it seems to me like they were strategies that dealt a lot with just dealing with life in general. Some of the questions that we received, one of the questions I think you answered, but it says, what are signs that my child may have anxiety?
Oh yes, and I didn't mention, like, sometimes they'll pull out their eyelashes, they'll pull out like the edges of their hair. So you may not notice immediately, but you may find hair on their pillow all of a sudden because they're plucking the hair out at night, as they're trying to get to sleep. That's self-soothing behavior. And some people rock themselves. That's another self-soother. Some kids rub their lips. You just may notice really dry patches on their face, arms, anything, because they are scraping themselves, scratching too much, just anything new when you notice just repetitive behavior that's unusual for them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Another question, what is the best way to approach a conversation with my child about what's going on in the world today?
Mm-hmm. First, I would keep the news off. I would turn the news off. and then they'll worry a whole lot less, because that's unnecessary worries about adult type of things, because really they're under your protection. So, and then I just answered any questions they have on a level that your child can handle. And you'll know when they get enough because the questions stop. They'll just stop asking the questions. So just kind of follow their lead. You can give them whatever you feel is age appropriate, because there is such a thing as too much information, especially the uncontrollables. There are things that they just have no control over. So they don't need to hear your politics about the president or whatever. You know, they don't need to hear that, because it doesn't make them feel safe anyway. So I just limit it as much as possible, and you'll know when they have enough, because they just won't ask anymore.
You answered actually the other question that was coming right after that. So I don't even think you have to answer it, but it was how much is too much to share with a 9-year-old about the situation. And I heard you mention things like, how the parents feel about their politics and all of that being too much. So.
Yeah, it's just too much. The best example I can think of, how if your child falls down the stairs. So let's say if they fall down the stairs and you're at the top and your first reaction is, oh my goodness, right? But then you see they're okay because they're not crying yet, okay? What a child will do is look upstairs to see your face. And their next move depends on how you're looking. They're going to panic if you're panicked. But if you're up there and when they pop up and you say, yay, they get up and brush themselves off and then keep heading towards their destination.
Right.
But if you're falling to pieces, they will just cry, So they're going to just follow our lead. They're going to look to us for peacefulness. And if we can't give it to them, they're going to join in to our despair and fearfulness and all of that.
Good. It's funny because it's like you're answering all of the questions that are leading up to the other question. This question says, will anxieties return once my child goes back to school? How can I assure her that she's safe at school?
Yep. Okay. So you can let her know. Based on, see, now I'm thinking about Georgia, because I know, the governor has just allowed everyone to just be in groups and all this.
Right.
So I don't know if you can guarantee their safety, to be honest.
Well, hopefully by the time school starts back up, in August, because schools are so closed, I know for example, at AOS, we're doing everything to make sure that once school opens up, like we're not having summer camp, and we just notified our parents, so I think when parents get communication from the schools about what it is that they're doing to ensure that the school environment is safe, they can pass that information on to the kids. We're not having summer camp because we want to make sure that we have the time to make sure that the environment is clean, safe, sanitized, everything before the scholars, come in August.
Good for you. Good for you. I think that's excellent. So in that case, you can let them know, you'll be fine. Just go to school and enjoy yourself, And then when they get back home, you just reinforce. So how are you? I see you're still in one piece. So you survived, So it's just that reassurance. You're fine. Go on. Enjoy. Just do the kid stuff,
Right. Just being positive as the parent, I think, like you just said, they'll react based on the parent's reaction. So that's good.
Exactly. And what you'll find is that you'll know, as teachers and the principal and everything, you will know which kids are what's being told to them by their parents, because you're going to have those kids who calm the other ones who panic and everything. You'll see them saying, it's okay, it's going to be all right, and it's like, wow.
That's true.
Wow.
The next question says, my child is 5 and wants to see and hang out with family members and friends. What can we do to try to meet this need but still keep her safe?
Be very selective, because you have to know what those relatives are up to.
Right. Where they've been.
Yeah, where they've been.
Around.
Okay, okay, yeah. Not everyone who looks wholesome is wholesome. Okay, they can be getting into something, right? I just heard a scenario of a psychologist. Now we're doing everything through video, but when we were still seeing people, a colleague saw someone and found out through a spouse that she had just met with the husband, and he was starting to dabble into drugs. You would never guess. You would never guess that. But they do. It was in a group. So they group up, even though it was forbidden in the town and everything. But some houses they were still getting together for those little parties and things. But you would never guess. So I don't know. You can guess that your relatives are living a certain lifestyle, but you don't know what they're doing. But
Right.
And if there are addictions involved, they do those in groups. A lot of times, a lot of things are done in parties, like groups late at night and stuff, and they don't care about COVID-19.
Right.
So I just I don't trust. Not with a 5-year-old. I don't know. I'd say just be very careful. But
Right.
you really have to know the lifestyles of the people now. Yeah,
Right.
and how serious they are about the social distancing and everything.
Right. And I think one of the things that I've seen too is families are using a lot of FaceTime, group FaceTiming. So if you have a 5-year-old that wants to be around family members, using FaceTime and say, hey, right now we have to social distance. This week it was really cute. We found we have a song about social distancing that we shared with the families, and it's a rap song, but it's really cute because it talks about what is social distancing, and on a kid-friendly note.
That's good.
Yeah, so I think letting them know what it is, social distancing, and then, hey, but we can always talk to your friends on FaceTime or, on video chat.
Exactly. And then if you let them dial or learn how to use the technology, that's fun in itself too. So they may have fun doing that as they reach out to friends and family, learning how to use the technology and everything.
The last question that I have, it says, my 12-year-old son has started asking to sleep in my bed at nights. Is this okay, or should I be handling his fears and anxiety differently?
I would just go to his room. Just that way he's not changing his habits. You just change yours until until things calm down, but just go hang out in his room around that time. And that's, again, I can't stress enough, like family history, kids are really interested in that. Kids really are. They want to know. Tell me stories about grandma and grandpa, or how far back can you go? Like, what's your family history?
Yeah.
That's interesting, genealogy or whatever, but just talking about whatever is of interest to the child. But just being in their room, hanging out a little more, and then that'll help them settle down for bedtime. But no, I don't think it's a good idea to have them coming to your room, because now they're developing a new habit, and it's going to be harder to break that.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know what? That was the last question. Benny, did you want to chime in? Did you want to say anything?
First of all, thank you, Dr. Bailey, for being with us. We miss you guys immensely. Thank you for this great information and this great opportunity together. Social distancing, has made it, it's a new reality that we have that we're dealing with now. It's been an awesome time to give us an opportunity to get closer to our families in the same way, for them to work our nerves a little bit. I guess my question to you, Dr. Bailey, as this time continues to extend, because now we're here in Georgia, school is out for the rest of the school year. Then you're going through the summer. I know as a parent, for me, one of my fears is the balance between how do I keep them mentally, intellectually sharp while not pressing too much. Even though I'm an educator, I'm still a parent, so I'm trying to play that delicate balance. So if you have any, uh, advice for parents in how do we be continue to be our children's teacher and their parents, finding that balance between, when you go back to school, now you're going to be in school for 7 hours grinding, but really you're at home, and finding that routine and that balance that will allow us to stay the parent, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. And so keeping track of those fun activities on the calendar to make sure that they, and making sure that the kids had a say in what some of those events could be, what are some of the fun things that they could actually look forward to. So that always helps, that there's always something that they're going to look forward to, even if it's twice a month, once a month, but there's always something on the calendar that they played a role in identifying. And also having workbooks, over the summer, so when there is no schoolwork or anything, but just, keeping them sharp. But another thing is, like teenagers and middle schoolers, especially, a lot of the times they'll say, oh, I don't need that. I don't need to do this or that. But when you quiz them and they misspell a word, you can let them know, okay, now this is actually within your age range. You should know how to spell this. You need to read more, but they actually, now they're a little more invested because they know, oh man, I'm usually a good speller, So it's like, I'm slipping up. I got to step up my game. Or like when you're going out, like if it's a drive-through or something like that, and you're like, hurry up, tell me how much change I'm going to get back. I gave her a $20 bill. If they can't calculate it within that designated time, you can laugh about it, not laugh at them, but laugh about it and say, you know what, I think any other time you would have gotten that right. So you're still building them up. You're not trashing them, but you're pointing out to them, you don't have all the answers. You need to work on this. You need to work on the skill. And then there's all types of Khan Academy, and there's other stuff online, so that can kind of brush them up on things. And even if they're choosing a foreign language, I mean, they can learn Arabic for free. They have that on YouTube. But just to enhance their brain and keep it going, something where they can kind of choose, okay, what are you going to work on this week? Is this a math week or is this a vocabulary week? You can get those SAT preps. They can take like a SAT prep. I mean, I'm sorry. Wait, you don't have middle schoolers. You have
sixth
up to
grade,
fifth grade.
sixth grade.
Yeah. Okay, but the workbooks are good. The workbooks are really good. Little workbooks. And then Walmart, I know they used to have little workbooks and things to keep those skills up. But definitely the math and Sam's Club, I know they have those thick workbooks for math and reading. So.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bailey. I think a couple of things that resonated with me was basically making the times fun. So even though my children are grown, I do have my grandson here, and he's here because I'm helping him with the schoolwork. And so we have the schedule set, and what I've been trying to do is incorporate some fun in there. So like there's PE time or there's Spanish time. And I try to make it fun for him. So that resonated with me. Another thing was the anxiety part of it was the blowing the bubbles. I never thought about that, but I think that's really, really good. I never knew that it would decrease your heart rate and also decrease your anxiety. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that tip. We really don't have any more questions, and I don't want to take